Convert is an Australian manufacturer of high-quality biological inputs. Our mission is to accelerate the transition of agriculture to a more sustainable and low-carbon industry that produces higher quality nutritious outputs. We manufacture scientifically formulated products targeting soil restoration, seed germination, plant health and animal well-being. Our products are carefully crafted to help farmers grow sustainably with profitability in mind. Independent PhD research on our products conducted at the Western Sydney University showed significant increases in soil biology, nutrient availability and cycling, root growth, fruiting and flowering, drought resistance, and overall plant resilience and yield. These products have also been thoroughly tested across a range of crops in Australian conditions. These include wheat, barley, oats, cotton, cannabis, glasshouse lettuce, pastures, vineyards and orchards. Convert's products can be used via boom spray, drip irrigation or fertigation and does not relinquish farmers' existing trusted practices. Export has been a large focus of our company's positioning as our products are packaged in super concentrated formulations ideal for shipping and handling with minimal water and environmental costs. Convert is expanding into international markets with a focus on regenerative agriculture and the future of farming.
And a very good morning. It's a Wednesday. Boy, has the week flown by. How many seconds to go before the weekend? And then I can watch my team get beaten all over again, which is pretty scary. But anyway, you got to live it, don't you, to enjoy it. And we're not living very well with St Kilda at the moment. Anyway, it's another story. Looking forward to the Tasmanian AFL side, though. That'll be very good. We'll be talking to somebody from Tasmania very shortly. Not about footy, maybe I'll squeeze that in, who knows. We'll just keep our fingers crossed. Some of the news that's making news around Australia. Property investors are in uproar over Anthony Albanese's agreement with the Greens to force through his budget, with critics calling it a dodgy deal that will hurt mum and dad property investors. Now, to secure the Greens' budget support, the Prime Minister agreed to prevent people from using a loan loophole, which was called Limited Recourse Borrowing Arrangements, LRBA, that allowed self-managed super funds to borrow money and invest in residential properties. Good on you, Albo. Victoria has accounted for the lion's share of voluntary water buybacks in the basin, but farming communities have not received a cent of federal support funding. The founder, who's a Green supporter of the Wentworth Group of Concerned Scientists, owns 11.2 million shares in a water speculator that has sold $143 million in entitlements to the federal government. Nothing wrong with that, much. Farmers will be able to keep using paraquat after Australia's agriculture chemicals regulator announced the herbicide would remain registered, with new restrictions on application rates and equipment. Pretty bad to say the least, isn't it? Our guest very shortly will be talking about the AI centres they're building in all over the country. In particular, they're building these in Tasmania. Beautiful, I think the Tamar Valley. We're going to find out more about that in a second. I'm just going to bring up our weather because we need to find out what the weather's going to be like right across the country. And coming up next, we'll talk to Carl Cooper here on the Country Telegraph.
It's the new plan that has quickly become the talk of the town.
And we're very concerned that it's come so close to approval with so little community consultation.
Tamar Valley residents gathered today to discuss a bid by Firmus Technologies to build an artificial intelligence factory at Bell Bay.
The community is concerned because they don't know anything about the application. It's a 700-page application which is very detailed.
And there's just over a week left for the public to have their say.
It's just fair for the community. They've invested in this place. They own property in this place. They live here. They should be listened to.
While people here are concerned the Firmus proposals are being rushed through, the Greens are calling for a parliamentary inquiry into a range of issues related to the data centres.
Its appetite for energy, its appetite for water, its appetite for land, and indeed some of the implications from a community perspective are profound.
They also want to know how the government would regulate them.
The rules, the regulations and the laws have not caught up to be able to properly regulate this industry.
Firmus also has data centres planned for Wesley Vale in the northwest and at St Leonard's near Launceston. The three sites together would require 400 megawatts of power, about 1/5 of the state's total current usage. The government appears enthused about the prospect of new jobs and undaunted by the energy requirements.
It does require a lot of energy. Tasmania has a natural advantage in that space. It doesn't require a lot of water, as I understand.
A rapidly growing industry that could become Tasmania's biggest power user.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. Before we get into our guests, these data centres are popping up all over the place. And it's, what do I say? It's all about progress. But if you think about what they're going to do to the community and water and electricity, you're going to find out what it might. Tasmania is a magnificent part of the world. And we all admire Tasmania because it's so natural. So what are they doing? They're plonking up these AI data centres in Tassie, and this one I think is on the Tamar River. And we'll find out the damage it could very well do, because once you use the water in these data centres, it's poison. And so where do they put it? If you put it back into the ground, it'll go back into the system eventually, and you're going to poison the water. Anyway, our guest, Carl Cooper, is a man of many talents. After many years in the pharmacy business in New South Wales, Carl Cooper returned to Tasmania to farm in Rowella. Now, he is active in the West Tamar community and holds many community roles, including that of President, Tamar Valley Business Association. Now, data centres are in the news and several are planned for Tassie. The Tamar Valley Data Centre project, spearheaded by Firmus Technologies, represents a $2.1 billion initial investment for its Launceston campus. That's Project Southgate. An additional separate data centre development is also proposed at Longreach near Georgetown, bringing the total massive proposed investment across these northern Tasmania sites to several $billions. The Tamar Valley Business Association recently convened a meeting, which you saw just then, to discuss community concerns. Carl, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. How are you?
Very well, thank you. You know what? These data centres, if I hear another politician say, oh, but it will bring employment, it doesn't. You need a man and a dog to run these things. It's not going to create any employment. The end result for data centres in many cases, or in most cases, it will do away with jobs. So, first of all, the politicians, we know that they tell fibs, but they need to stop, don't they?
Well, there's the right answer and there's the political answer. You probably know that, Mike.
I do. What tell us about your concerns about... it's like
Tuesday last week, Mike, we were made aware of a story that was running on Pulse Tasmania identifying that there was an application being lodged with Georgetown Council to request allowing a data centre, an AI data centre facility across the river from where we live. Now, up until that time, that's only, 7-8 days ago, none of the committee was aware of this application before Georgetown Council. I rang the mayor the day this story broke and asked him what he knew about this application. He said that yes, it was only a short time before the consultation, or at least the community was made aware of this, and formal submissions would have to be lodged by the 29th of this month. However, the community at no stage was given any entree to understand what this proposed centre was, apart from a very detailed document which lodged on the Planning Department's website at Georgetown Council. The information that was supplied in that document is no way able to be understood by anyone who's not a supposed expert. But as you can see from the slides being displayed, the community came out strongly. About 150 people turned up at the Exeter RSL Club to actually listen to people's concerns about this application.
Yeah, it's and you have until you only have a short amount of time, because they're going to make a decision, I believe, in August. Is this decision, in your mind, and we're not trying to be creating a scuttlebutt here, but has this been a predetermined decision already?
Certainly, the state government has supported this process and have made it clear to the applicant, and both the Georgetown Council and the state government have been positive in their support for this project. The problem we face in this application process is at no time have anyone in the community been made aware of this, nor has there been any attempt by the company, Firmus Tasmania, to actually ask the community what their concerns are. Now, I thought public consultation and social licence was to do with actually bringing the community along with you. At no stage before this point has there been any attempt to actually discuss this issue with the community. Now, no wonder people are upset. They're upset because they don't actually know what this process means, and they don't know what the implications are, because it's buried in an extremely detailed and complex application, which might be appropriate for a planning department, but certainly is not appropriate for community who are concerned about the place they actually live in.
Can you tell me about the locations, or the proposed locations, of these data centres?
Okay. So the first centre, which was approved through Launceston City Council some months ago, was in a residential area in St Leonards. Now there are community people within hundreds of metres of this facility. It was presented to Launceston Council and approved within 41 minutes. There was only one person in the community that was actually at the meeting which showed any concern, and generally the consensus in the community was that they were actually unaware of the application through Launceston Council. The second application which I'm referring to is the one at, it's called Longreach, which is part of Bell Bay, which is an industrial precinct. However, within 1.5 to 2 kilometres on the other side of the Tamar River are some hundreds of residential people who have property that actually will see this facility once it's built. The third site proposed in Tasmania is at Wesley Vale, which is an industrial precinct in farming land on very close to Devonport. As I'd reiterate, this application process has the support of the state and local councils, because they have been engaged in the process. The concerns the community have are that the community don't know what this means, have been not given any support in relation to understanding how this process works, and are generally upset, and quite rightly, because they live in this place.
So when council and other decision makers are reviewing this, they'll be looking at, and I just mentioned before about the jobs it will bring. I can tell you now that it will not bring many jobs at all because they don't need it. Maybe to build it, they will need it. But after that, it's called bugger off. And secondly, they're building these on the close to the Tamar River, aren't they? So if they're doing that, because they need that water, they need good quality water to cool the centre down, the data centre down. Have you? Perhaps you should ask them what do they do with the runoff, because the water is extremely poisonous after it's finished with the data centre. So you can't put it back in to the Tamar River, otherwise you're going to poison the river and destroy the whole place. Have they addressed those concerns with you, or have they been mentioned, or are they just sort of hoping that you won't talk about it?
There is information in the application. Our concern is because it's presented in such a scientific and detailed manner, the process of actually people asking that in the community is only now just being identified as an issue. So 2 days after this story broke, Peter Carney, who's an ex-councillor at West Tamar Council, and myself rocked up to the Firmus Tasmania office and spoke to the manager of business in Launceston. At that point, the gentleman informed us that they were very upset about the community reaction because they were unaware that they'd done anything wrong. The state government and the local council at Georgetown both informed them that they did everything that they needed to do in order to get the planning to be approved. However, as you and I know, Mike, in order to get a large industrial process, it needs genuine engagement with the community. If the community aren't engaged in the process, there's no chance that the community will be in support of the project because they don't actually understand what it means. So you can actually put all your pieces of paper into council and it can run to thousands of pages. It doesn't really matter, but it's the detail and the importance of actually communicating that to the community that's being missing. So no wonder the community is upset. They're upset because they don't actually know what the stuff means.
It's a bit like handing you the documents from, say, Elon Musk on how to run the Starlink, and in that you have 4 billion pages. I mean, and there really is no need for you to know that. And the same thing with this, what they need to do is cut to the chase. I saw one of, I think it was one of your ministers talking about that Tasmania is a great place to set up a data centre because it has access to plenty of energy. Can you tell me about your electricity? Because these data centres do require a lot of electricity. Do you have stable power in your area? And have they also adjusted their thinking, if this happens, that they'll be using probably another third, if not 50% more of what they're using at the moment?
No, Mike, I'm not an energy expert, but I am aware that there is significant community concern about the engagement of Marinus Link 1 and 2. So that is basically an extension cord that runs into the national grid. The federal government have actually supported the building of that connection between Tasmania and the mainland states in order to trade electricity 24/7 across all states in Australia. Tasmania traditionally had a very effective and competent hydro scheme, which is virtually clean and green. It was dams, it was lots of watercourses, and it was generators across the state. I would argue that at no time in the last 20 or 30 years has there been much attempt to actually upgrade the system for the new world that we live in. We need our energy to be appropriate for the place we live in. Of course, you know, Mike, that there's lots of projects that have been gazetted across Australia in farming area across Australia to build significant wind factories or wind turbine facilities. In Tasmania, there's been a number built across the state in the north, in the northeast and in the Central Highlands. them in these facilities, if you look closely at them, depend on the government supporting the connection between these facilities and to be tied up to the grid. Unfortunately, in my belief, the taxpayer has paid for those connections, and a lot of international interest has been in buying these facilities for the size and the amount of energy that they can generate.
Yeah, I think the wind turbines, sort of like in Vietnam when they bombed that village, we had to destroy the village to save it. Well, they're going to destroy the planet or destroy our environment to try and save it. And I think and besides, Tasmania is just one of the great wildlife areas of the world. All you need is a couple of thousand birds flying into those wind turbines, and plus the RF it produces and all sorts of things. So it's a blight on our society, I think. What's the local? What does the Tamar Valley Business Association do now in regards to these? And I call them monstrosities that people call data centres.
The object of this exercise, we are not anti-business. We are not anti-jobs. The point of this exercise is we represent about 85 local community businesses, vineyards, restaurants, cafes, people who actually employ local people. Our interest is to elevate the discussion so that the community has input in terms of what these things mean to them. They are the people that contribute to the community. They are the people that actually employ local people. They are people that pay their taxes and support the state. What we're hoping for is that our public officials stand up and actually support the community in their grievances, in their interests in actually improving the place and making this place a better place to live. If they're not engaged in the decision-making process and they don't get a fair understanding of what it means, the community doesn't have support in our leaders, and therefore they are, interestingly, confused or upset about the processes that are at play. It's not about those who are supposed leaders in our community making decisions for us. They need to listen to the people that pay the bills.
Yep, totally agree with you. Look, we will follow this. I think we need to. I think there's some smoke and mirrors going on here and some nefarious activities, one would say, but right across the community. And you see the rural and regional outback areas of Australia, they are being imposed upon, being kind there by government with wind turbines, solar farms, transmission.
Mike, just one last thing I'd like to mention is I did pick up a Fin Review story yesterday in relation to the movement of applications into regional parts of Australia because they are having trouble getting them approved in the cities now. So people are onto the story. So I think people living in regional parts of Australia need to be aware that they're coming for you.
You know, we have been following for example, the Brumbies. And I said one day, just the other day, that, and I have said many times, that government is targeting those on the land in rural communities. And somebody wrote in and said, I think you sort of lost the plot when you said that. And I had to remind them that if you look at all the governments at the moment, including in Queensland, which now have a compulsory acquisition bill that has just gone through or is about to go through, they can come on anyone's land and they can do whatever they want. And if you disagree, whether it's windmills or solar farms or whether it's fire ants or that sort of stuff, they're going to do what they want. And this is, I think, a great imposition on what we are all about. Australia is not like that. It shouldn't be like that, but it has become that way. And I sort of think we need to get back to basics, get back to having each other's back and getting those communities strong. If somebody wants to find out more about what's happening or the Business Association, how do they do that?
So the Tamar Valley Business Association has a Facebook page, but also we have a website. I'll pass that through so that people can contact us. Everyone comes to Tasmania because it is a wonderful place. I was a Tassie boy that was born in Hobart and spent many years interstate. but realised late in my career that, my wife and I decided that Tasmania was a place we wanted to spend our later years. Our children are all still in New South Wales. They love the place that they're working in. That's fantastic. Tasmania is the prettiest and most interesting place in the world, and we've travelled widely across Europe and across Asia. Many people come to Tasmania. It's an older population, it's an ageing population, it has a lot of issues in the way we look after the community. We need to concentrate on supporting people to age gracefully and to be looked after in the community. So that includes the conversation about whether we have a right to actually be engaged in the political process and whether people listen to what we're saying.
Brilliant. Carl Cooper, President of the Tamar Valley Business Association, thank you very much. Just one final thing, don't you go pinching some of my players from my team for the new Tassie side of the AFL, otherwise we will never talk again. Because I can see it. You're going to pick all the best players out just to make Tasmania the #1 football side in Australia. And we can't have that, Carl.
Business is business, they say.
I can't stand it. I want to go home and cry and just sit with a bottle of milk. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your time.
This is the Country Telegraph.
Those that work the land know this. Our lives are drawn from the earth, our food from the soil that we tend. We are custodians. We protect it, we defend it, we seek to share the abundance for the common good.
Australia's prosperity was built on the wise use of its natural bounty. Fertile land, mineral resources, hard work and abundant energy. Energy powers our farms, our industries, our transport and our homes. It sustains modern life and underwrites national strength.
Energy security is economic security. Economic security is national security. A country that cannot rely on affordable, abundant and reliable energy puts its prosperity, its sovereignty and its freedom at risk.
We believe Australia should use all its resources wisely and in a national interest so that our children inherit a country that remains productive, secure and free.
Recent events have shown us how carelessly we have ruined our inheritance. We sit on vast reserves of coal, oil and gas, but we are not fuel secure. We are not fertiliser secure, so we are not food secure. This is a warning. Any future serious disruption to regional sea lanes would cripple the nation and empty our supermarket shelves.
We stand on a simple principle. Political power exists to serve the people, and the first duty of the state is the well-being of the nation and its communities.
We have not been well served. Our liquid fuel security is running dry, and our electricity system has been diverted from delivering cheap, abundant power to chasing targets and slogans. Policy unmoored from physics and economic reality has turned an energy-rich land into a decadent state.
So we reject the sacrifice of productive farmland and natural habitat to sprawling industrial wind and solar estate strung together by vast transmission networks. In a perversion of environmentalism, our landscape is being despoiled in the name of saving the planet.
We're calling for an urgent review into an energy policy that was never built for purpose. Billions of dollars have been spent on wind and solar projects that only deliver part-time power. Billions more on transmission that's required to bind it all together, and then good money after bad to back up a system where failure is a design feature. The result is a weaker, less resilient, but more costly energy system. And the proof of that is in everyone's power bill. Australians are paying more and getting less. Energy users are suffering, while developers from offshore are being subsidised.
This is not nation building, it's a misallocation of capital. The scaling of unproductive generation is delivering a less productive nation. We are willfully turning a rich nation into a poorer one.
No sector is being asked to bear more than agriculture and regional communities. Farmers are expected to yield their land, pay the price of mitigation, shoulder the cost of adaptation, and go on feeding the nation as if none of this has consequences.
Those that live off the land and sustain Australia and many beyond cannot be sacrificed to an energy and climate policy that destroys the economics of production. We say that a free and secure nation producing food and energy in abundance, responsibly and sustainably, is the best contribution Australia can make to society.
We will defend the land we know, the communities we have built, and the legacy we hold in trust for those that come after us. To keep Australia prosperous, sovereign, and free is our duty, and in an uncertain world, our best defence.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. Very shortly, Dr. Peter McCullough. I'm excited with this one. Haven't spoken to Peter for a long time. We used to speak all the time. That was during a past life. Just before we get into Peter, I want to play this quick clip, and this is the reason why we're going to talk to Peter about the H5 strain of the bird flu in WA. Somebody once said the other day, in fact, said, "It's the killing season. We've got to kill some birds." We'll find out if it's necessary. This is that clip, and the next up, Peter McCullough.
2 more dead WA birds, including one in Perth, are being tested for bird flu. It comes as poultry farms step up biosecurity measures, with backyard keepers even urged to protect their flocks from wild birds.
2 more dead petrels washed ashore in remote South Australia, now being tested for the same H5 strain already confirmed in 2 migratory seabirds in WA.
This time of year it is not unusual to have migratory birds wash up on beaches. At this stage there is no evidence the virus has spread.
Authorities still waiting on results of 9 samples taken from the Esperance region, while the Emergency Animal Disease Hotline received 36 new calls yesterday, with only 2 dead birds requiring further testing.
A cormorant in the Perth metropolitan area and a giant petrel in Geraldton. Importantly, there have been no reports of large-scale mortalities.
The arrival of the disease has the poultry industry on high alert, with calls for the government to introduce an exclusion zone to restrict the movement of chickens.
We don't know the extent of the spread yet, but we would like the government to get ahead of the game and definitely restrict the movements.
Producers, even backyard hobbyists, urged to isolate their flocks from native birds.
We encourage people to have good biosecurity measures in place. Put a cover on your coop to ensure that we don't have wild birds drinking out of your food and water.
At this stage, there's no indication egg supply will be disrupted.
Egg farmers are well versed in what they need to do. I wouldn't expect that we would see shortages like they saw in other countries.
While the Tourism Minister is urging people to keep visiting the Great Southern.
This is still a wonderful place to visit. I'd urge people to continue to visit. It's safe to visit. The wildlife and the bird life there represents part of the attraction of the region.
People are urged to avoid contact and report dead or sick birds. Jessica Brown, 10 News.
Incredible. Where's Dr. Fauci when we need him? Sorry about that. I hate to throw that in. Do they wear masks? I don't know. Dr. Peter McCullough. We'll have to ask Peter. And if you think so, I've been drinking some Kool-Aid. Dr. Peter McCullough is a public figure, author, physician, scientist, and a commentator. He has broadly published on a range of topics in medicine with more than 1,000 publications and over 685 citations at the National Library of Medicine. Now, Dr. McCullough has been considered among the world's experts on COVID-19 and has dozens of peer-reviewed publications on the infection and has commented extensively on the medical response. We're going to talk to Peter today about the recent apparent confirmation of the H5 strain of bird flu in Western Australia and important facts to be borne in mind about this disease. Peter, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Long time, no talk. I'm so excited. You've made my morning, so thank you, sir, and made your afternoon, I hope, too. Tell us about the, because isn't it interesting, whenever there's this, this globalized panic about a flu. This time it's to do with the flu, the birds. We get in, the government creates this frenzy. Do we need to have a frenzy approach to this bird flu? Is it going to wipe out all the birds in the planet? Are we going to have to wipe out all the birds to save one? What's the story? What's your thoughts?
Boy, if this was a test on an exam, it would be no to all of them. I can tell you that bird flu has been around for centuries, and the birds always develop natural immunity to it. That's what happened in the United States. Everything that was said on that clip was completely incorrect. Biosecurity measures don't make this better. What happened is there was gain-of-function research. It was done in the USDA Poultry Research Lab in Athens, Georgia. There was serial passage research. This has been published in the journal Science and Wildlife Poultry Sciences. This is proven, and the USDA doesn't deny it. They got bird flu to jump into mallard ducks. And once it dumped into the ducks and waterfowl, then it spread from farm to farm. And so in the United States, for a couple of years, the farmers wiped out all the healthy chickens as a biosecurity measure. And guess what? The farms got reinfected over and over again. And so we messaged everyone, including those in Health and Human Services and USDA, to stop culling all the birds, allow natural immunity, we'll get through it. And that's exactly what they did. And now we're back to full egg production.
Yeah, interesting. It's natural immunity. I mean, I would have thought after the last fiasco that would have been paramount in people's minds, straight on the front of the nonga, as we would say, the brain. It's still not. I'm half expecting, and I'm being a bit facetious here, that they're going to have a lockdown with the birds. You must not leave your nest. You must not leave it.
Well, it was a tragedy to try to destroy all the chickens. They use several methods to do that. It's very messy. And in the cases in the United States where people contracted bird flu, it was the workers who were assigned to kill all the chickens, and all the dander and flapping around spread bird flu around. Now, fortunately, it was very well treated with an oral drug in humans called oseltamivir. Nasal sprays and gargles work fine. I'm at the Wellness Company in the United States. We made farmers bird flu kits to get them through this. There shouldn't be any significant concern here. By the way, we never had large numbers of animals die. You couldn't find a single image where there were, tens of thousands of chickens dead from bird flu. There in Australia, it looks like some nature watchers found a bird here and there. They should give up on this madness.
No, we found two. So it's like, I hear the Kentucky Fried Chicken is in trouble. No, but it's two we've found. How do they test the birds? Do they wait till they fall off the perch, or they're not feeling very good and they then do a quick test on it? But two is not enough, is it?
No, and they use a nasal PCR. They use a PCR down the gullet of the bird. It's very inaccurate. In the United States, it was a government that actually controlled the testing of the birds, and the smart farmers just never let the government agents come on their property and test the birds. And if you don't test the birds, guess what? You won't find any bird flu.
Yeah, incredible. In Australia, you were out here, I think, 2 years ago with Clive, and I don't know what the impressions were, but we tend to be a little bit over dramatic when it comes to certain things, such as we have a situation that we have, like your Mustang horses, we have the Brumbies in Australia, and the government has overturned one of the past bills and said, no, we're going to kill an enormous amount of horses, Brumbies, because they're destroying the vegetation, which they're not, and they know they're not. Now we're going to destroy a whole bunch of birds, and it will happen. You watch. They're going to kill all these animals just because they can. Do you get something? And you've been right at the front of human ugliness, I would say. Do you often just your jaw drops and you think, this is not how humans should act?
It does, particularly in the former British Empire, Canada and Australia. In Canada, they slaughtered a whole bunch of prize ostrich for this scare. None of them were sick. You see this madness now in Australia, the prolonged lockdowns and these falsified radius around people's houses. We don't get it. All we know is the United States beat Australia pretty soundly in the World Cup, and we're wondering what happened to our Aussie friends. Where is that strength and independence, Mike?
Good on you. See, I should have been prepared for such a low comment, but by the way, a couple of those decisions were quite suspect. Let me tell you, Peter. I'm not a sore loser. Just a couple of other things, because I know you're on a tight schedule. The lack of your thoughts on the vaccination reform or lack of it at the moment, say in particular with the US.
There was reform. Trump and Robert F. Kennedy wanted to trim the schedule back to like what it was in Denmark. Denmark, by the way, has better control over infectious diseases than the United States, reduced the burden on the children. The parents were thrilled. Guess what? A judge stepped in, reversed all this, and now is essentially suing HHS and the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. So we're really stymied because of the power of the courts. Sadly, in some states, the parents don't have any choice. They have to go ahead with this really excessive vaccine schedule. About half the states, though, there's considerable vaccine freedom. Where I am in Texas, population about as big as Australia, we have medical, philosophical, and religious exemptions for vaccines, so parents can take their choices. I'm personally in favor of a much lighter, more risk-stratified schedule. It shouldn't be one size fits all.
Your thoughts on mRNA?
Looks very dangerous. The COVID vaccines, we have data now, Mike, in one of my patients. It's the Pfizer vaccine is circulating in the blood for 3.6 years, producing the deadly spike protein, and this patient has caused blood clots and heart damage. Now, Moderna has rolled out a RSV vaccine and an influenza vaccine, messenger RNA, without the preclinical safety testing. I think it's a dangerous precedent that's been set with the COVID vaccines. I don't advise my patients to take any messenger RNA vaccines.
What about mRNA for animals? Do you know anything about that? I think they're actually using it now. I could be quite wrong here. I think in the UK they've been trying, and parts of Europe, they've been trying to vaccinate anything that's got 4 legs and a tail.
Well, they're using self-replicating vaccines, slightly different RNA and DNA. These are scary, again, because we can't turn them off. And again, animals are excessively vaccinated. We've seen this huge schedule for pets, and reasonable veterinarians tell me, holistic veterinarians tell me that really what the dogs need in a modern, clean environment is they just need distemper and rabies. That's it. Not all of these other vaccines. And getting back to bird flu, you know what? The Chinese have actually tried to vaccinate the chickens. That backfired because the virus mutated. So we don't want to start vaccinating animals for bird flu, and we certainly don't want to vaccinate humans as they did in Northern Europe. It's completely unnecessary.
Just a couple of quick things. Your thoughts on Fauci? You see that he won't be getting a Christmas card from Tulsi.
Well, Anthony Fauci has refused to appear before the Senate Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee, a committee I've testified in front of multiple times. And when you get the notice, you should show up. He's refusing to, so now he's going to be subpoenaed. I think the noose is tightening because now the recent release of government documents from Tulsi Gabbard, the National Intelligence Director, indicates Fauci knew all the while that the virus was being created in the Wuhan lab, and he played a role in this, the virus that got everyone sick, the vaccines that caused tremendous safety problems, and there's a huge loss of life, closure of businesses, and it's all centering on Fauci and a small group of co-conspirators.
Interesting, isn't it? And can we look forward to another pandemic shortly?
The agencies, instead of preventing pandemics, appear to be creating them, including the United States, BARDA, DARPA, the Military Biological Threat Reduction Initiative, with over 3 dozen biolabs in Ukraine. It looked like all kinds of weapons were being developed, and then 120 across the world. I think the United States has been in violation of the Bioweapons Convention that we signed in 1972. We shouldn't be creating biological threats, but indeed we are doing so, and that's going to be the source of the next pandemic.
Can I just ask you then, this is, I kept saying one final question. Are you disappointed then with Donald Trump? Because I have to say I am.
Yeah, well, I voted for Trump, but I tell you, I've been enormously disappointed. Now, granted, he's had a lot on his plate, but it seems to be one distraction after another. I'm very disappointed in the media. You talked about this recent biolab document release in Fauci. Do you know only Fox Business, and then Real America's Voice and the independent stations covered it? There was a media blackout among ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, a complete media blackout. No mention of the biolabs. You can't make this up. Those agencies are reporting about a blue-green algae bloom in the reflecting pond in front of the Lincoln Memorial, but yet they're not reporting on something critical that affected all of us, that is the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, something important. We'll talk about the pond. Donald Trump believes it was sabotaged. I think probably a natural occurrence maybe, but we can't go there because he has this big, beautiful government that he's running. And I have to say I'm very, very disappointed. But, you know, he's a politician. And that's what happens, isn't it? Deep state gets hold of him and they can't do much about it. Peter, if somebody wants to find out more about you or the Wellness Company or the McCullough Foundation, how do they do that?
Well, the website, my appointment website, I do see Australians who are willing to travel, petermcculloughmd.com. Wellness Company is twc.health/focal points. And then McCullough Foundation is mcculloughfnd.net and org, and mcculloughfnd.org, and the generous donations support all our work in Washington, our policy work. We've done huge work and impactful work in the pandemic, the bird flu crisis, the autism epidemic, and we continue to bring the world the truth.
Fantastic. Admire you enormously, Peter, and I think to chat to you today, I am so honoured, and thank you. And I normally don't say that to people, but I think you were very brave through those terrible times, and you're still very brave. Just one more thing. I promise no more after this. What was your takeaway, the major takeaway, what's happened to society over the last, say, 5-6 years?
I think society fell into essentially a mass formation, an infectious virus of the mind. And people were overcome by fear. They were easily deceived by government agencies that all seem to collude against the well-being of people. First time we've seen it in the world. Now's the time to wake up, and people use their common sense because it looks like this is going to happen again and again, and it's happening with bird flu right now in Australia.
Good luck to the share price with Kentucky Fried Chicken. Peter McCullough, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we'll talk again shortly. This is the Country Telegraph.
I didn't choose this life. I was born to live it. So was Dad, Pa, his dad, and his dad before that.
Come on, ladies.
You're supposed to be slowing down, you know.
It's payback for the free labour you got out of me as a kid.
I learned from watching my mum and dad and how they work together. So does my sister Sally.
Any trains? I know. Feet up.
I'll always remember these days. It's the happiest days of my life. Together as a family.
Oh, you're so lucky I love you.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that about right, isn't it?
I don't know how you're going to deal with all this. Deal with what? $6 million debt? Most farmers are in this amount of debt. As farmers, we gamble with the weather every day, and it's a risk we take. You have no idea what I'm going through. Maybe you should talk to someone. Oh my God, no, I'm fine. No, you're not, Alison.
You and your dad's a coward.
Play a game of footy, all right?
Where's heaven?
What?
Where's heaven?
The sky, I think.
Can we go there?
Well, you might be wondering why I'm sitting on a horse, but this is what I grew up with here on the edge of the Snowy Mountains, riding through these mountains, seeing brumbies, and they're under threat right now. I'm opposed to this brumby cull. I'm supporting the brumbies, and I want the locals back in control of the brumbies here in the mountains. This is a part of our heritage, it's a part of our history, and it must be protected. The brumbies, the mountains, the heritage, the traditions. That's what I believe in.
Tamar
fall, I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Brumby hoofprints etched for generations in the snow. I've watched the foals become the mares, the stallions old and slow. Here in the snowy mountains where my life began, across hills, ridges and open plains my fellow Brumbies ran. I've led them through winter storms, drought and summer rain, but I can't outrun what follows now. Shield my family from this pain. My ancestors crossed the oceans, but I was born upon this land. These mountains are my birthplace, the Snowies are my clan. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. Tell my foal I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Stay close beside me, little one. The thunder isn't rain. The sky itself is hunting us, and I cannot stop the pain. I gather those I love and turn to face the sound. Though every instinct tells me run, there's nowhere left for us now. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. I fall upon the ground, thunder again and again. My heart grows quiet as bullets rain. I thought I had more seasons, more rivers left to roam, more sunrises with my Kosciuszko clan before the mountains called me home. Tell them I was born here, my grandfathers fought their wars. Remind them that this was our home, the snowy mountains were ours. Tell my foal I knew her fear. Tell my mare I heard her call. Tell my foal I tried to save them. Tell the wind how Brumbies fall. Tell my foal I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye.
Yes, we're going to talk to the person who's responsible for making me cry and also writing that song very shortly. In a couple of minutes' time, we're just going to have the news very soon. But, you know, truly, if you're looking for something that encapsulates the entire essence of what's happening at the moment, that's it. And it is a disgrace what's happening. But we'll talk about that shortly. And this is not how people should act, by the way, not how humans, in particular Australians, should act. But we do. There has to be a reason for it. Maybe we'll chat to our next guest about that too. Coming up in the next hour, we'll talk about brumbies, a lot about brumbies, about horses, about how we can fix things. Also talk about bees. Now, you go, bees? Yes, it's the buzz. But it's very important because without bees, we ain't got anything. And they are under threat also. What is it under threat these days? Just about everything. We've got to stop that. Get back to being what we should be doing. Living life to the fullest and having respect for our neighbours and ourselves and just doing the right thing by the community. This is the Country Telegraph.
It makes a lot of sense that the driest continent on Earth should be making a priority to rehydrate itself. You know, I can't imagine any land manager in Australia wouldn't want to be more attuned to the landscape and knowing how to rehydrate it. We're the ones that should be leading the way in understanding and sharing that. So having this knowledge and being able to apply it, I think is significant. And it's a practice and a method and principles that apply to every square inch of Australia. G'day, Charlie Arnott, 8th generational regenerative farmer here at Hanamino, Burrawa. I grew up here on our very conventional farm, and in the early 2000s when we had an extended dry period, we like to call them, when I was watching paddocks blow away in the wind and started to question, you know, was that a natural event? Was that of my doing? What could I do about it? And I decided at one point that no, it wasn't something I had to accept. What I really had to do, I felt very passionate about, is finding out how I could do a better job of managing the landscape. One of the wonderful things about natural sequence farming is that whilst we can graze our landscape as best we can, and we sort of time control graze or holistically manage our pasture, you're always going to be limited by how you use the rainfall. We can't influence a lot of the things. We can't influence markets, we can't influence the weather. But what we can change is how we have prepared the landscape for weather events. What we've done is a lot of work around our homestead, in the kilometres around where we are. You drive past every day, you can observe and see these changes in the landscape. You can see how water's flowing. You can see how this contouring technique is retaining moisture in the landscape and rehydrating the landscape. The paradigms we're talking about changing are large ones, and I always say that the first paddock you should change is the one between your ears. You know, that's where you hold your paradigms, and so it may take a number of steps, it may take some questions, and I think that's a really critical thing. You've got to go at your own speed, your own comfort, and that's again going to come back down to your budget, time frames, who's on board, and being really clear of your vision and what you actually want to get out of it. Australia is a vast continent, and again, nothing works without water. So it seems pretty clear to me that the farmers who are interested enough to look at these sort of methods, care enough about nature and the environment, they're generally the ones producing the better food, the more nutrient-dense food, because they're in cleaner environments, they're more robust, they're more resilient, the animals are happier, and generally the people are happier too. So anyone who eats food, essentially, I think, needs to support this sort of methodology, and let's rehydrate Australia.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. It's 1:08 on the eastern seaboard. And nice to have your company too. It's a Wednesday, hump day of the week. Some of the stories that's making news around Australia, property investors are up in uproar over Anthony Albanese's agreement with the Greens to force through his budget, with critics calling it a dodgy deal that will hurt mum and dad property investors. Dodgy and elbow. Anyway, I won't go there. To secure the Greens' budget support, the Prime Minister agreed to prevent people from using a loan loophole that was called Limited Recourse Borrowing Arrangements, LRBA, that allowed self-managed super funds to borrow money and invest in residential properties. Victoria has accounted for the lion's share of voluntary water buybacks in the basin, but farming communities have not received a cent of federal support funding. The founder of the Wentworth Group of Concerned Scientists owns 11.2 million of shares in a water spectacular that has sold $143 million in entitlements to the federal government. Interesting. You can find that on the Weekly Times, by the way. And farmers will be able to keep using paraquat, which is a disaster, after Australia's agricultural chemicals regulator announced the herbicide would remain registered with new restrictions on application rates and equipment. If you want to find out what's happening around Australia, farming, rural, regional, cap city, whatever your taste is, just go to Facebook, YouTube, X or Rumble. And by the way, we're live on all those platforms. Sue Armstrong creates music and visual art under the artist name Seahorse Seeker, blending narrative, emotion and imagery to explore themes of healing, resilience, nature and human experience. Susan's song played during our discussions on the fate of the Brumbies. We played it all the time. If you need a good cry and you actually have a titch of emotion, this is the song to really let those tear ducts go loose. And it's triggered a highly emotional response from our entire audience. It's just, as I said before, it encapsulates what is happening at the moment and how cruel it is. Her song explores themes of family, belonging and loss, while asking whether environmental stewardship and compassion can coexist. I don't know about that. Sue, do you think it can?
I very much believe so, and I really hope that we can change hearts and minds, and people will consider, stop and think and consider what's actually really happening here, and how we are, the fact that we're shooting brumbies from helicopters. It just, my heart tells me that there's just got to be another way.
There has to be. It's terrible. Tell us about the thought process that went into writing the song.
Yeah, well, basically, one of my friends, she contacted me and she was crying, and she shared with me what's happening in the Snowy Mountains. And this was in early June, just a couple of weeks ago. And when she shared with me what was occurring, and she just couldn't stop crying, it was tragic. And I looked into it further and did some research, and I was appalled. I mean, the photographs, the sharing of how some of the horses have been shot, up to 10 bullets, and how horses are literally lying on the ground and they're injured, and the foals are crying, the mares are crying, the stallions are crying. It's just so tragic. And so when I looked into this, I was horrified. And there's so much sentiment out there. And there's a lot of polarized sentiment as well. So there's like kind of opposing views. So there were views that were very pro the call and views that were very anti the call. And so, and I said to my friend, what can we do? And she was very aware of the fact that I've been writing music. Well, all my life I've been writing songs and lyrics. But particularly in the last 6 months, I've been, capturing my personal journey through music. And she said to me, why don't you write a song? And so I thought, yeah, that's what a great idea. And I had no idea that it was going to have the traction that it's had. But when I thought about writing a song, I thought about, okay, what would be a way that you could potentially, reach people and maybe change people's, help people to see, what's actually occurring, that these animals are, sentient beings. The brumbies are incredibly intelligent. I know you know all this, but they are, they went to war with us. They're incredibly, as animals, they're loyal, intelligent, and they use, like with kids who are disabled children, they use for riding because of that, because of their nature. And so it just shocked me that people just didn't see thought that it was okay to call animals in this way. So I basically thought about, how can I reach hearts and minds? How can I change that perspective? And so I figured that if I was able to write a song that got people to stop and think, and if I did that from a Brumby perspective, and I could tell a story about a stallion, and my concept was that, as I did the research and I understood more about the terrain. I mean, I've been to the Kosciuszko National Park. I even stayed at the Silver Brumby Lodge, a skiing lodge, and years ago. And so I really resonated, I connected with what was happening, and I just thought, how can I tell the story? And so I wrote the story and storyboarded, the story of a stallion who's lived all his life in the Snowy Mountains National Park in Kosciuszko, and he's been, looking after his family. He's had foals, his mares, and he's been, leading his family through the mountains his whole life, and he's protected them, through the droughts, through the winter, and it's really tough terrain out there, and I kind of wrote the story that kind of tapped into that, and and that's how it came to life. And I'm so I don't know if you the video, there's Ian and Michelle. When I launched my song on Spotify, basically they very kindly said that I could use their images, and that gave the song a different dimension. Like, I think I had about 800 photographs that I looked through, a huge amount of photographs, and I literally chose the ones that really kind of helped me to bring the story to life. And I think I went through a box of tissues when I was putting the images to the music. It was so touching, but it really did help in terms of bring to life what's actually occurring, and how these horses must be so afraid and tragic.
It's interesting, isn't it? When I gather there's an accent there, and I probably think you're from the UK.
Yeah.
But see, I could be a great detective. But I'm just in the UK. There's a push now to do what's happening to the Brumbies. I think to the Dartmoor ponies. In the US, we have the Mustangs, those wild horses, being attacked and used for terrible, such as dog meat and stuff like that, and illegally shipped over the border to Mexico. And in Australia, we have the senseless, and it is senseless and based on lies, the attempted culling of the Brumbies, which is as much part of Australia as anything is, because they are very much, and 150 years they've been in the Kosciuszko National Park. So what we have is this ramped up attack on, some say anything good. I'll stick with the horses at this stage. Why are we? What's your thoughts on? And all of it is to save the environment, by the way. What's your thoughts on the excuse? I mean, even Media Watch, they had a story, and we're going to reply to Media Watch. I think it was a very, 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 very It was a nasty, nasty story, nasty piece from the ABC, but not surprised there. And they said that all the animals, one shot, and they had a vet that was the vet went out for 3 days in 2023. She did that, or 22, and said that after 3 days she saw no cruelty at all. And even then I thought, this vet must have superhuman powers. She's moving across the entire Kosciuszko National Park, watching all the shootings. So again, another government hit job. And you find that government in this country, in particular with the Brumbies, the New South Wales government, is appalling. Minns even said, Sue, that he thought that he wants the environment back to what it used to be. I mean, you might as well say, let's go back to the Stone Age era and have dinosaurs. You can't do that. We have to move on. But he said, time for people to enjoy the real Australia, go for walks, go hunting. I mean, so they're so out of touch with Australia, and this is the quintessential Australian story. And your song is the quintessential Australian song or global song about how we need to look after our animals and how we need to have respect for the environment, not the make-believe environment and our little wish list. We have to have more respect, don't we?
We do, absolutely. And I agree with all the things you shared there. Brumbies are part of Australia's heritage. There's and what beats me is, and you touched on this, I think, on one of your previous shows. Back in, was it 2018, that the bill was passed that Australia, the Brumbies were protected, and then that was retracted back in 2025. I really do not understand why what's occurring is occurring. I don't understand how there's so. Yes, environmental issues. I'm sure there are, right? But at the end of the day, they're not just Brumbies, and there's so many other things that need to be looked at. So I think my perspective is that decision makers should be taking a very holistic, strategic view and looking at all the impacts on the environment, and against those different impacts, having a very clear plan of what they're going to do and how they'll address those things. But I think to go about doing what they're doing with the Brumbies, it's just completely inhumane. It's inexcusable. It's I am personally, I am very shocked, and I've had thousands of messages. In fact, I get since my song was launched on the 10th of June. So it's not that long ago. I've had over 1,000 messages, and the sentiment out there is overwhelming. The positive sentiment behind the song that I've written, the positive sentiment behind the fact that people are standing up, trying to give these horses a voice, because the horses, they're powerless. They can't speak for themselves, and it's incredible. It's shocking. It's just dreadful. I can't believe that we're doing what we're doing.
It's not how we should act. I mean, I was always told by my dad, if I disagreed, got a foot up the backside. But anyway, he, from the bush, of course, he said, animals rely on us entirely.
Yeah,
they do.
They do.
And we need to look after the animal. And truly, if you can tell me any animal that has hatred, then I'll probably reverse what I'm thinking. Animals don't have hatred.
No.
And they do rely on us being humans. And we fail so many times, and we're allowed to fail, but we need to learn from our failures, don't we?
We do, and what's really tragic as well is that there are so many people who live in the Snowy Mountains who've built relationships with these horses. I heard about a gentleman that had a heart attack. There's so much impact obviously on the horses, and also but on people too. And I think all of this, I'm appalled by what's occurring, and I really do hope that what I am really touched by is the fact that there's so much passion and people who are coming together. There's so many groups of people who are really putting in so many hours of effort and going to do the rallies and communicating. Ashley Avis coming all the way to Australia to support us in this, and it's incredible that, and I'm really touched by the support for the Brumbies out there. It's incredible.
Do you still, or do you get emotional when you listen to it? I mean, it's a great story, but I have to tell you, even to talk about it, I have to actually block it out because it has had such an impact. What about yourself?
It's true. It's like, when I was writing the lyrics, I cried so many times writing the lyrics, and there were so many iterations of the lyrics as well because I did want them to be impactful. But that was a problem, right? Writing the song, it was really moving because I imagined I was a horse, and I really imagined I was a stallion on the mountains. And yeah, and I'm a mother. I cried. And when I was younger, I used to ride horses, and so yeah, I cried so many times writing the song, and then I cried so many times putting the images to the music, and I still get emotional when I listen to the song, especially there's a last shot in the video where the horse looks at you, and I just think
Don't do that to me.
Yeah.
Don't do it to me. I'll burst out bawling. What else are you writing on? I mean, you'll be ordained a saint. I can see that standing out a mile. But what else are you working on? Because you are a very, very good storyteller.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I've been writing stories all my life. Yeah, started off when I was my family had a farm, and I used to find a few kittens that the farm cat had, and I'd go and sit in a hayloft and write stories and music. That's where my journey began. And so I'm currently my next song that I'll put out there is a song about what must the universe think of us, and it was kind of inspired by how we're not protecting our environment, and how the war and all the things that are occurring. And yeah, I was kind of thinking about how can we stop and think about what we're doing to the planet that we live on. And I know that kind of like there's lots of thinking about traveling to discover other places that we could potentially inhabit one day, but my kind of thinking is why don't we spend more money looking after and more time looking after the planet that we've got. And so that's one of the things. I'm also writing a children's book, which is based on, there's a lot of I think the importance of feeling that you are enough, I think is something that's really resonated with me. And as a child growing up, I think many children growing up, they often, there's so much competition in the world today, and I think parents pushing children, people pushing children, and I think it's important that children feel enough just as they are, right? And I think that's a message that I wanted to get out there to little people. And so I've written a song. I've got 3 dogs. I've got Mr. Darcy, Miss Bronte, and Mr. George. And Mr. George, it appears in my book that I've written, and it's a story about a little boy and how he, with his dog, Mr. George, really learns about the fact that he's enough just as he is. So that's kind of my next thing. But these are projects that I've been working on for a long time, part of my healing journey, and things that I kind of pick up and do so that I can kind of do something positive and give back. And that's something that I've always been passionate about, giving back to the community. Yeah.
Yeah, you're very talented, and as I said, you're a great storyteller. If somebody wants to find out more about your music and yourself, how do they do that?
Yeah, reach out to me online. I've got a presence on Facebook. I am trying to learn how to use these other platforms. Like, I don't have much experience with with TikTok and things like that. So apologies if I don't respond to any of those of you on there, but I will try. But yeah, Facebook is probably so Seahorse Seeker at Facebook.
Sue Armstrong, it's been a pleasure. We're going to, again, we played it before the last hour, we're going to play it again, your song. I will listen to it, and then I will go into a commercial break because I'll be a blubbering mess off camera. I have to thank you, personally, thank you It's been a great journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me on the show. Appreciate it.
Tell my fool I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Brumby hoofprints etched for generations in the snow. I've watched the foals become the mares, the stallions old and slow. Here in the snowy mountains where my life began, across hills, ridges and open plains my fellow Brumbies ran. I've led them through winter storms, drought and summer rain, but I can't outrun what follows now, shield my family from this pain. My ancestors crossed the oceans, but I was born upon this land. These mountains are my birthplace, the Snowies are my clan. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. Tell my foal I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Stay close beside me, little one. The thunder isn't rain, the sky itself is hunting us, and I cannot stop the pain. I gather those I love and turn to face the sound. Though every instinct tells me run, there's nowhere left for us now. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. I fall upon the ground, thunder again and again. My heart grows quiet as bullets rain. I thought I had more seasons, more rivers left to roam, more sunrises with my Kosciuszko clan before the mountains called me home. Tell them I was born here, my grandfathers fought their wars. Remind them that this was our home, the snowy mountains were ours. Tell my foal I knew her fear. Tell my mare I heard her call. Tell my foal I tried to save them. Tell the wind how Brumbies fall. Tell my foal I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. I
absolutely brilliant. It's one of those great songs. I think Sue Armstrong loved the photography too, from Ian and Michelle from Snowy Mountains Brumby Photography. You should send them a thumbs up and follow them on social medias and stuff. Absolutely brilliant too. Also, we've been thinking about doing one of the Dartmoor ponies. We might as well cover some of the other abnormalities, with human coexistence and nature with the Dartmoor ponies, because they're in the UK and they're being touted to be culled also. We also have the Mustangs, the wild horses in the US. And by the way, when they refer to the Brumbies as feral, they need to rescind that, because that's an absolute lie. They're not feral, they are wild, and they are also easily tamed, easily integrated with children, with families, with communities. And the garbage they go on with, and we're going to reply to Media Watch with their overhyped up promo and stuff they had on it. We're going to reply to that, because they can live in coexist with other natural wildlife in the Kosciuszko Mountain Park, the national park there. They can. It's just that we are at times a very cruel and inexcusable species. Anyway, coming up next, we'll talk bees, just to continue the threat of death and destruction. But if we don't look after our bees, we ain't going to have a planet. This is the Country Telegraph.
Australians are paying more and getting less.
Energy security is economic security. Economic security is national security.
We sit on vast reserves of coal, oil and gas, but we are not fuel secure.
Policy unmoored from physics and economic reality has turned an energy-rich land into a decadent state.
No sector is being asked to bear more than agriculture and regional communities.
We are willfully turning a rich nation into a poorer one.
To keep Australia prosperous, sovereign and free is our duty, and in an uncertain world, our best defence.
So this is $1 million glass of water, which only gets dearer after I flush it. Take this, our sewage treatment plant. Quilpie was one of the first towns in the Commonwealth to receive this essential service back in 1938. In 1966 they upgraded it, and back then it only cost $9,000 to do that. That's not bad value. In 2026, to replace this will cost $11 million. As a community with less than 1,000 people, we just don't have that sort of cash laying around, which means our ratepayers would have to cop 1,000% increase on their rates just to keep their toilets flushing. That's a crap deal. This is a story we're seeing right across Queensland, from the city to the coast to the country. A water line breaks in Queensland every 73 minutes. Everywhere in Queensland, communities are sitting on old infrastructure that the state is no longer funding to fix. And the longer we wait, the more it costs.
Councils are sounding the alarm on Queensland's infrastructure cliff. We're calling on the state government to act now, before it's too late.
Hey, do you remember that place we always talked about? You know, the place where kangaroos play down on the sand? And the forests are so ancient that they start to grow houses of their own? Remember you said you wanted to drive all the way down to the edge where the desert meets the sea?
And you said you wanted to see the stars shine brighter in the skies than ever before, and that when you looked out towards the horizon, all you wanted to see was blue.
I think we just found it.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. Fiona Chambers is CEO of the Ween Bee Foundation and chair of the Australian Pollination Strategy Steering Committee. Under her leadership, the Ween Bee Foundation has become Australia's leading charity addressing national and global threats to bees. It funds vital strategic research, education and conservation initiatives that strengthen bees, improve pollination efficiency and increase food security and ecosystem health. The Australian Pollination Strategy is a 5-year national initiative bringing together industry, research, environmental and government stakeholders to develop a coordinated, evidence-based approach to Australia's pollination supply. First of all, I have to welcome our guest and the bees. How under threat are they? I mean, let's go one step further. If it keeps going the way it is, the future for mankind.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, look, bees certainly are under threat. And I guess the question then becomes, well, which bees are you talking about? Because we have many different kinds of bees in Australia. We've got honeybees, of course, which do the heavy lifting in our agricultural pollination across the country, across so many of our agricultural crops. But we've also got around 2,500 species of Australian native bees. So all of these bees face unique threats and challenges, and our job is to try and address those challenges as best we can.
Yep. As CEO of the Ween Bee Foundation, Fiona, you must sometimes, I mean, I know we're trying to secure the future of bees. Do sometimes you get a bit, you go, oh, what's the purpose of it? Because I'll tell you why. I mean, I was reading this story the other day from a bee charity in the US, and they're talking about the last day of a bee. And I thought, oh, it's pretty interesting. It had music behind it and stuff, so it was emotive. And it said that when you see a bee sitting on, say, a flower or a leaf or something, generally it's readying itself to die, and it does it outside. And if it gets through that particular night, it will take back some pollen as its last gesture to the hive. Now, whether that's true or not, but I thought it was very emotive that this poor bee sitting out there looking at the heavens and thinking, well, this is almost it for me. Are we? And you mentioned the honeybee, but if we didn't have the bees, or if they keep being attacked as they are by environmental catastrophes such as herbicides and all sorts of chemicals, does it actually place us in a bad position? Because without bees, you haven't got much life, have you?
Well, if you look at why bees are important because they're keystone pollinators. So we need those pollinators because they underpin food security. Bees pollinate about 1 in every 3 mouthfuls of food we eat, and 3/4 of our food diversity. So they're really essential for underpinning healthy diets. Without that food diversity, if we didn't have our honeybees pollinating all of our different food crops, then we would be much less healthy as a human species. So we need bees for food security, but we also need bees for biodiversity and ecosystem health. So bees pollinate about over 90% of all flowering plants. And so if we didn't have the native bees out in our native ecosystems, then those ecosystems would collapse. So bees are, really, really important. And it's not just one bee, it's many thousands of different types of bees. And not just bees as well, it's a range of other pollinators as well.
What's the major difference between honeybees and native bees?
They're different species. So honeybee, there are a few different species of honeybee. When we speak about honeybees in Australia, we generally speak about the European honeybee. That's the bee that will live in hives like the ones behind me in the picture. So beekeepers will manage those hives, and those honeybees originally from Europe have co-evolved with our food crops. So many of the crops that we rely on, that we would eat every single day, whether that's almonds or avocados or apples or many of our vegetable species, pumpkins, cucumbers, many of our crop species like canola oil, all of these different crop species have co-evolved with our honeybee in Europe. And when we brought those crops to Australia, we also brought the bee, and so there's a really unique relationship between the two. But our other bees, in Australia, we have about 2,500 species of unique honeybees. Only 11 of those species live in a colony like the European honeybee. They're our native stingless bees, and they're in the northern part of Australia. But all of the other species tend to be solitary, which means they don't live in a hive. They breed and reproduce either in cavities in trees and twigs and stems, or 2/3 of our native bee species actually breed and reproduce underground, which most people are surprised to hear.
I am. I always thought those pesky ants, don't stand on those ants. Now we've got bees to worry about. Actually, I had a bee once when I was at school, and I was riding home from school, and a damn bee got into my ear. And I instead of saying, get out, I put my hand over it. It was very loud, and of course I was a coward. I had to go home. My father poured paraffin oil in my ear to get the bee out of the eardrum. But amazing creatures. So tell me about the Varroa. I think is it the Varroa mite? How dangerous is that to the survival of bees?
So Varroa mite is a pest of the European honeybee. It does not affect our native bees in Australia, which is the good news. But it is absolutely, deadly to the European honeybees. So it arrived in June 2022, and it's been decimating honeybee populations across the eastern part of Australia. It's now extended. It was first identified in New South Wales, and it's then spread to Victoria, Queensland, ACT and South Australia. So it's across the whole eastern part of Australia. What the Varroa mite does is we know that it's going to completely decimate our feral honeybee populations, and we have very, very large populations of feral honeybees. Now, what that means is they're honeybees that are no longer being managed by the beekeepers, have absconded from the hives and live very effectively in the wild. That was up until Varroa mite arrived, and they can't survive in the wild without being supported by a beekeeper. So at the moment, those feral honeybees, whilst there are some ways that they can be problematic for the environment, they are providing currently a free pollination service. So many of our agricultural enterprises are benefiting from those feral honeybees, and they'll be quite surprised when those feral honeybees are completely decimated by Varroa mite, because they'll no longer be able to do the free heavy lifting that they're currently doing.
So where does that leave us?
Well, the modelling, we've just completed some modelling looking at what is the likely scenario. So if you take all of the feral honeybees out of the system that are currently providing pollination for free, and you look at what other honeybees are going to be needed to fill that gap, and then we've modelled the scenario based on what happened when Varroa arrived in Canada and what happened when Varroa arrived in US. And they suffered extreme losses. In Canada, it was 20% of all colony losses. In US, it was 60%. So we've modelled all of that. And what it's showing is that in the eastern part of Australia, where Varroa is already established, we're already right on. We've only just got enough hives to satisfy agricultural pollination right now. But within 2 years, we're looking at being about 290,000 hives short. This is managed honeybee hives short to satisfy the commercial pollination that's required in the eastern parts of Australia.
So it's looking like it could be a disaster, because that will also impact on the yield from those particular farms.
This is a crisis. This is a crisis that we're ill prepared for, that people don't know what's coming. And when I say people, I mean many of our agricultural industries just don't understand the role that our pollinators, how their crops are being supported by the pollinators. When we talk about pollination security, we see pollination security is supported by 4 elements. The heavy lifting is done by the managed pollinators, the managed honeybees, but there's also the feral pollinators. There's the managed alternate pollinators like flies and our native stingless bees, which are commercially managed as well, and then also our wild pollinators that are just out in the environment. So pollination security needs all 4 of those to be supported. And every farm in Australia will have some mix of pollination being provided by those 4 areas. Understanding what mix is currently providing your pollination is critical to understanding your pollination risk and is critical to managing pollination security in this country.
What about overseas? How are they handling the mite there, or is it just creating havoc too?
So Australia was the last continent to have varroa mite arrive. So we've got the benefit of drawing from many decades of experience across Europe and America and Asia. So it's not new. What is new is that in other countries, when varroa arrived, it takes about 2 to 3 years for all feral bees in the wild to be eliminated. And so in that first couple of years, beekeepers are really, really challenged with managing the treatment of mites, because they might treat their hives, then the next day the bees go out foraging, mixing with feral bees that are infected, and they get reinfected. So the first couple of years, until all the feral bees are eliminated from the environment, it's very, very costly and very challenging for beekeepers to manage that treatment. So eliminating the feral bees is really actually important to being able to manage the varroa mite. It takes 2 to 3 years for all of the feral bees to be eliminated from the wild. In Australia, though, in the last few months, we've had resistant mites. A second incursion of varroa mite has arrived in Australia, and those mites are resistant to the major treatments. So where our situation is different in Australia is that our beekeepers are having to manage varroa mite for the first time, whilst we've still got very high feral honeybee populations. And that's posing a really big challenge for our beekeepers. We're also experiencing varroa at a time when we've got some of the lowest honey prices globally. We've got a broken honey market because we've got honey adulteration. Honey is now the #1 most adulterated food in the world. So we've got low honey prices. We've got high costs. We know that the fuel prices have just gone through the roof. So high cost, high treatment costs, whilst we've still got high feral bee populations. So it's market failure at the moment for our beekeepers. We have in the last couple of years lost 30% of our commercial beekeepers from New South Wales, and recent polls have shown that there's another 22% that are going to leave in the next 2 years. So,
can I just ask you? I mean, I don't mean to butt in. When you say it's adulterated, what do you mean by that?
So some people call it fake honey. It's honey being sold in the market as honey, but it's not actually honey. It's a sugar syrup. There's a number of different ways it can be adulterated. It's no one single way, but it's essentially a product reaching the market being sold as honey that's not actually honey. It doesn't fit the international standard for honey. And so that means it can be produced much cheaper than honey. And, look, we can all live without honey. We can survive as a human race without honey, but we can't survive without pollination, those honeybees going out and pollinating our food crops. So the value of the pollination services provided by a honeybee is many, many times greater than the value of honey.
I'm astounded, because if it's not honey, you can't call it honey.
One would think so, but we can't keep up with the way in which the fraudsters are getting that product into the market. So there's a lot of work to be done in that that area. I mean, what we're facing is a perfect storm. There is market failure for the beekeeping industry, which is underpinning pollination security, which is why we've been working on developing a national plan, because there is currently no national plan for securing our pollination. And, you know, in many regards, it's as important as water. Pollination spans across crops, across states, across regions. It is important for both agriculture and the environment. And so it's a really complex, very, very complex area that needs a really well-structured plan and strong government support.
And you mentioned that the idea is to, correct me if I'm wrong, is to get rid of all the feral bees. If you get rid of the feral bees, what happens to their areas that they service?
Well, that's a great question. And one of the big areas that I speak a lot to the grazing industries about is clover. We know that clover is very important to our grazing industries for being able to turn off animals, providing a good protein source for them. And clover is an imported crop. It's not natural to Australia. And that clover has co-evolved with honeybees. So at the moment, the clover in many pastures across Australia is being pollinated by those feral honeybees. When those feral honeybees are gone, we're going to lose the pollinator. Now those feral honeybees are performing a free service at the moment, and our agricultural systems have been designed to work with a pollinator, that feral honeybee, that can fly up to 10 kilometres to pollinate that clover. So when those feral honeybees are gone, then we're going to be relying only on our native pollinators to do that. But our native pollinators really can't perform in quite the same way. So, for example, they can't fly 10 kilometres. Most of those native pollinators will only fly, 50 to 100 metres, maybe up to a few hundred metres, but certainly not in the kilometres the way the honeybee does. So what that means is that our current systems, the design of our agricultural systems, we're going to start to see breaking down of those systems, and clover is a good example of that. I think most grazing farmers would understand just how important good clover persistence in their pastures is and what value that is to the farm enterprise.
I'm absolutely astounded. Then what is needed now besides, the panic alarm bells should be going off now. How do we educate not just farmers, not just consumers, but the entire country that we need to do more? And how can we do more?
And look, that's the role of our foundation. We spend a lot of time providing information, credible information that people can trust. And we provide information. We run programs for the public, just to educate the public about just the importance of bees and what they can do. But also for land managers. We have programs for land managers like our Bee Friendly Farming program. And then the work that we're doing with the national strategy is really major system change across industries and across government. So we work at all levels. What I would say is, everybody can do something to help, whether that's buying Australian honey, because Australian honey is produced by Australian beekeepers, and it's produced by Australian bees that are pollinating Australian crops. So first thing every single person can do is buy Australian honey. The second thing people can do is, whether you've got a small balcony or a garden or a farm, is make sure you're planting to support the pollinators, because planting trees and flowers that have pollen and nectar supports not just our honeybees or our native bees, but it supports all pollinators. So everybody can plant flowers. And then the third thing people can do is, at the moment, we're really looking for feedback on our pollination strategy, feedback on the report that we have just produced, and we're looking for input as we build this national plan.
Yeah, it's truly an eye-opener. Can you just, a couple of people written in asking about the honey in the supermarkets that's not honey. Are you allowed to mention brands or not?
No, look, I think in terms of honey in the most of them are labelled. They have to comply with Australia consumer law. So if it says product of Australia, what we want to see is product of Australia, not made in Australia. Made in Australia could be that it's made from imported ingredients. So we want to see product of Australia on the honey that you're buying from the supermarkets or your local stores. Where the bigger problem and where it's harder is in the manufacturing. So when you've got a manufactured product, whether that's from a packet of chips or a breakfast cereal or whatever the manufactured product, where it's got honey as an ingredient, that's a lot more muddy. That's a lot harder, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the hidden impact.
Incredible. Maybe they could have a honey section and a not honey section. And then I'll send the wife off, say, honey, can you go and get the honey? I had to throw that in. You probably heard it a billion times. And somebody else has written in just quickly, how do we protect the ferals, the bees, that is?
That's not something we're going to be able to do. The scale of our feral honeybees is broad. Australia is a bee utopia currently. Until Rowella arrived, it was a bee utopia, and the feral honeybees have established very strongly. Now, there are a lot of people that don't like the feral honeybees, and they are considered a threatening process, competing with our native pollinators. So it's not a matter of protecting the ferals. It's a matter of people understanding what free pollination what benefits they're currently getting from the ferals, to understand what the scale of that loss will be once those feral honeybees are gone from the environment.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I hear the dogs wanting attention in the background.
Yes, sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. They need to go for a walking.
Yeah. I
know Coal Lake very well. I used to work in the very early days of my career in broadcast. I mean, trying to go back to Ned Kelly just about. I worked at 3CS doing breakfast, and I know how cold it is in the morning there. It's a very cold part of the world, but beautiful too. And you've got the odd wave close by. God's country, to say the least. If somebody wants to find out more on your organisation and how they can help, how do we help?
Go to the Ween Bee Foundation website, which is weenbeefoundation.org.au. All the information's on the website.
Absolutely fantastic. It's been a real pleasure. And it's just incredible that we do it well, don't we? We certainly don't look after nature that well sometimes. And I think we need to sometimes take a step back and say, look around us, take time to smell the pollen and enjoy what we have, because one day it may not be here. Fiona Chambers, thank you so much for your time. This is the Country Telegraph. Coming up next, I'll play a bit of some footage from a couple of horses, sort of meditation time before we wind up the show. This is the Country Telegraph.
Outback Queensland. It's stepping back about 100 million years.
It's soaking in the surrounds.
It's wide open for adventure. It's where dinner puts up a fight.
And it's your round for new stories.
It's switching on easy mode and a whole lot of incredible.
Outback Queensland. It's something else. Book your holiday now.
Australian made means made right here in Australia. But it's more than just where it's made. It means made by Australians, backing local businesses and jobs. Made for the way we live, right here. It's why buying Australian made just feels right. Australian made, made right here.
this way. You're beautiful. I love you.
And just about it. I've had a very, very interesting show. Had a bit of a tear because of that terrible song. It makes me cry. It's absolutely magnificent from Sue Armstrong. Gorgeous piece of music and a gorgeous person too. Thank you for what you're doing. I found this clip yesterday. Somebody just used their iPhone, I would imagine, or phone to take some footage of these two brumbies just munching away, enjoying life. So I downloaded that and I put some music behind it. And I thought it was a nice piece of Australiana, the one that I really like. Just about it, almost 9 o'clock. Have a great day today. Enjoy Australia. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy your friends and family. We'll do more tomorrow. Thank you again for being part of the Country Telegraph. Now, if some are wondering why we call it the Country Telegraph, we really couldn't use the Bush Telegraph. So we use the Country Telegraph. And that's simple as that. It's a communication device, or what they used to do in the olden days, between communities. And that's what we're trying to do, talk with communities and bring this rather large country, make it smaller, make it accessible, and sort of highlight some of the things that are happening, a lot that I don't like at all. Okay, I'll leave you with the weather. Catch you tomorrow. Be good, be kind, enjoy the life. It's the only life you have.